Well, hey there, everybody. It's good to see you all. Um, Not that anybody's here yet, but it's good to see you all. Here's what we're talking about today. And we shall see how this goes. See if we can get through it all in 2 hours. Knock it out. I got home from protesting this morning and I was so tired. So tired. Hey, Susan, how you doing? I don't know if you heard me say, I got home from protesting today and I was just dead beat. So I took a little bit of a nap. I'm still really tired. But studying's not going to study itself. You're packing for your trip? Hola, chica, how are you? How was Mike's live stream? Interesting. This paper is out of Reed College, which is a Portland area college. Another truly sad story. Yeah. They are all just sad. Very sad. Dave got interesting coverage down at the org in Portland today. They had everybody showing up for course at 9, but the door was locked, so the people were standing outside waiting for Dave, waiting while Dave was talking at them, waiting for somebody to open the door. Can you guys hear that? The air show is here this weekend and the planes are just so incredibly loud. I don't know. Having been in a Scientology adjacent group, it's really, really easy. Yeah, Dave Tech. It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. I'm not sure why there isn't more acrimony for their parents. I think that I'm not sure. That would be a great question. Hi, Michael. How are you? Paolo, how are you? It's good to see you guys. So, to give you the outline again of what we're doing, that's what we're reading today. Beyond Binary Gender, Creaky Voice, Gender, and the Variationist Enterprise. And this was written at UC Santa Barbara and Reed College in Portland. So, is everybody ready? We will chat as we go along. I expect you guys will you guys will chat along in the chat. It's so nice to see everybody greeting each other. A studious stream this afternoon. Yeah, Oregon Valley girl, the streaming isn't going. Hey, Jen, the studying isn't going to study itself, unfortunately. I will give one more look. Beyond binary gender, creaky voice, gender, and the variationist enterprise. This paper promotes a sophisticated treatment of gender in variationism through a large-scale quantitative analysis of creak, a non-modal voice quality stereotypically associated with women in U.S. English. An analysis of our gender-diverse corpus, including cisgender, transgender, and non-binary individuals, finds that gender does not predict variation. All gender groups produce high rates of creak. However, gender does interact with style. All speakers use more creak in interview speech compared with read speech, but some groups style shift more than others, suggesting that gender remains a relevant factor in capturing how creak is deployed as a resource in social practice. We use this analysis to advocate for a move beyond the gender binary in quantitative descriptions of sociolinguistics variables and call for the greater inclusion of trans plus individuals in sociolinguistics. So, what is creaky voice? This is something that we will have to listen to, I think. Oregon Valley girl, I got your mail. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Creaky voice. Creaky. Pardon me, y'all. Sunrise Dawn, how are you? Okay, let's see if she does it in here. Okay, Oregon Valley girl. She's tasting a beer before she talks about. Creaky voice. Vocal fry. Okay, creaky voices. Okay, so do you guys hear that? Do you guys hear that creaky voice? Do you guys hear that? I'm not even sure how they're doing it. End of the end of, okay, very faint. Labor, labor, labor. Okay, labor. Of course he did. Of course he did. I'm trying to figure out what it is too. Susan, you don't got it? Creaky voice is kind of the way the Kardashians sound. Um, let me find it again. Yes. Okay. Does that make sense, guys? Susan, I hope that makes more sense. I think the no is I'm not sure what the no was for. Hey Evie, how you doing? So creaky voice is hard to explain. But I think we're starting out with gender. So, wow, we lost everybody in a hurry. And I've got a text message I need to check. Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. Okay. So, this says, this paper promotes a sophisticated treatment of gender. Oh, good, Chica. Sunrise Dawn, here. There's an example. There's a whole video on it. Oh, being condescending. Oh my goodness, Chica. Oh my goodness. Poor Karen. Okay, in variationist sociolinguistics, scholars have long critiqued the superficial treatment of gender. Gender differentiation emerged early on as a key sociolinguistic pattern in variationism. Fisher found that girls in New England, 1958, used the ing variant in present progressives more than boys, and a model boy used it more than other boys. Early variationists replicated this linkage between gender and prestige when comparing women and men in community studies. You know, if y'all have questions while I'm reading, throw them in the chat because your question might help me understand something better. Early variationists replicated this linkage between gender and prestige when comparing women and men in community studies. For example, women were more likely to style shift sharply toward a standard variant and led their male counterparts in incoming prestige forms. Yet the adage that women are more standard was soon replaced by a new one: women lead linguistic change. Due to findings that women often set the envelope of variation, making greater use of both vernacular and prestige forms, depending on the sociolinguistic context. Right, Sunrise Dawn? That's what I was doing too, laughing my ass off. Today, any variationist worth their salt. Hey, Big Chief, how you doing? It's good to see you again. Twice in one day. I'm so popular. You doing any better today, Big Chief? I need to pour myself some more to drink, guys. Hold on a second. So I'm not so stressed about my greetings paper because since I'm combining my greetings paper with my final paper, my teacher said, insist that don't they always insist they're being starved to death, Sunrise? My cats regularly insist that I am starving them just to be mean. Oh, but Jasper isn't the cat. Orion tries to do that too, insist I'm starving him to death. It's pretty hilarious. Okay, today any variationist worth their salt can recite these phrases. Along with age, gender is the most common predetermined social factor built into variationist research design. This is not a surprise given how reliably gender differentiation is identified. As Labov summarizes, among the clearest and most consistent results of sociolinguistic research in the speech community are the findings concerning the linguistic differentiation of men and women, 1990. As a result, it is standard practice to assume that binary gender will be an axis of social distinction. Yet, the concept itself remains under-theorized and simplistically implemented by the discipline. In contrast, scholars whose research is explicitly focused on gender, sexuality, and language have long followed post-structuralists in exploring gendered diversity in language use, and have made direct appeals to variationists for more nuance. Many argue that a more sophisticated treatment of gender would require a shift away from large-scale community sampling and quantitative analysis. Instead, these scholars argue the entry point should be ethnographic, with studies focused on how individual speakers take up variables and their social meanings to construct the social world around them, including but not limited to gender. Questions allowed in the chat, y'all. While we support this shift in perspective, we recognize that many variationists, ourselves included, will continue to sample groups of speakers and operationalize social distinction for quantitative analysis. We aim to reinforce the calls for scholars of variation and change to update their conceptualization of gender and to demonstrate one way a more sophisticated treatment of gender can be operationalized. Further, we demonstrate how that treatment may challenge the received wisdom about gender differentiation in language use through a quantitative analysis of creaky voice in a gender diverse population. My goodness gracious, Dawn, was he? I don't think so. I don't think so, but I'm not sure yet, Chica. I need to. Not that much, huh? I didn't realize you'd only had him since September. I think he's a beagle, isn't he, Sunrise? Can you guys hear that? Okay, guys, a variationist approach to sociolinguistics focuses on understanding how and why language varies among different groups of people in different contexts. This approach examines the social factors influencing language variation, such as age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and geographic region. The variationist approach is grounded in the principle that language is inherently variable and that this variation is systemic and meaningful. Spoiled rotten breed? That's what I've got. I've got the spoiled rotten breed. Sorry, that fingernail is going to cut my face open if I don't file it down. Instead, these scholars argue the entry point should be ethnographic with studies. No. Further, we demonstrate how the treatment may challenge the received wisdom about gender differentiation in language use through a quantitative analysis of creaky voice in a gender-diverse population. Why do they need to use such big words? Unpacking the concept of gender is especially relevant when describing the sociolinguistic patterning of creak, also known as creaky voice, laryngalization, glottalization, or especially in popular media, vocal fry in English. Creak is a voice quality likened auditorily to a rapid series of taps, like a stick being run along a railing. You can't see profile pictures, Chica? Cringe voice? Something like that, Big Chief. Rapid series of taps like a stick being run along a railing and the sound of popping corn. Articulatorily, it involves slower, more contactful, more irregular vocal chord vibrations than modal voice. The cross-linguistically most common voice quality. While Creek is phonemic in many languages, there I just went into it. While Creek is phonetic in many languages, that's creaky voice. Got it, Chica. Got it. In English, its uses include marking intonation phase boundaries and the onsets of vowel initial syllables, as well as conveying sociolinguistic meanings, including those related to gender. While the earliest descriptions of creak in English pointed to greater use among men in England and Scotland, the focus has since shifted toward its use by younger women in the US. It's a beautiful picture, Chica. As in accents or intonations, Big Chief, which do you mean? Sorry, I've gone by what you were reading. What I was reading. Articulatorily, it involves slower, more contactful, more irregular vocal fold vibrations than modal voice, the cross-linguistically most common voice quality. While Creek is phonemic in many languages, in English its use include marking intonation, phrase boundaries, and the onsets of syllables, vowel initial syllables, as well as conveying sociolinguistic meanings, including those related to gender. While the earliest descriptions of Creek in English pointed to greater use among men in England and Scotland, the focus has since shifted towards its use by younger women in the US. The association of Creek and young women's speech circulates outside of academia as well, with increased concern in the popular media around young women's vocal fry, characterized as a disorder turned fad. Given that these discussions within and outside of academia have largely reinforced the gender binary in exploring Creek, we find this to be an ideal test case to more carefully consider how a diverse sample of speakers may shed light on gender differentiation in language. The treatment of gender within variationism assumes the gender binary, a societal system that maintains two distinct oppositional categories of female and male. Much of the human social project is focused on constructing and maintaining difference through dichotomy. Valley Girl Syndrome, exactly, Big Chief. And the gender binary is arguably one of the most powerful ideologies structuring modern society. As such, it impacts researchers as much as research participants and can unwittingly shape who is studied, how they are categorized, and how their linguistic behavior is interpreted. Today, most variationists adopt the term gender in alignment with the critiques that the term sex perpetuates the essentialist notion that linguistic differences between women and men are linked to natural differences between biologically defined categories. In fact, both sex and gender are social constructs in which binary categories are imposed onto complex, continuous expressions of physiology, self-presentation, and identification. Furthermore, critics argue that many variationists retain a modified essentialist approach and have simply replaced one term with another without recognizing the complex factors impacting gender differentiation in language. In this paper, our use of gender is an umbrella term meant to encompass multiple complex dimensions that are not easily teased apart. Gender assignment at birth, physiology, socialization, presentation, and identification, as well as aspects of sexuality. A second critique of gender in variationism focuses on erasure, a semiotic process in which attending to one axis of distinction renders other differences invisible. The focus of any quantitative analysis of binary gender will inevitably be on differences between, not within, women and men. But the people captured by these labels are not all the same Woman and man are not monoliths, but categories that are heterogeneous and locally realized. In addition, there is erasure of other aspects of identity that are co-constructed with gender, including those unmarked identifications packaged along woman and man, like heterosexual, gender normative, white, English speaking, and middle class, with a concomitant erasure of diversity within those aspects of social structure as well. A second type of erasure comes about through the exclusion of speakers, those who do not fit into the categories woman or man, or sit on or cross their borders. A third critique of gender in variationism centers on the ways aggregate patterns found in quantitative analyses are interpreted. While some analyses of gender differentiation point to tangible situational forces that impact individuals, including stylistic exposure or social network type, a common interpretation is that binary gender differentiation emerges due to long-standing structural power differentials. First adopted in sociolinguistics by Trudgill, 1972, the argument that women's relative lack of access to independent material wealth fosters greater use of language as symbolic capital has remained popular. This perspective treats class as the central factor organizing linguistic variation, interprets gender difference as a byproduct of class differentiation. 1996, 1990, 2014, 1996, 1990. Eckert, 2014, has questioned whether large-scale gender differentiation has much to do with gender at all. In short, despite the ubiquity of gender findings in variationist analyses, there is no consensus as to what they mean. We applaud these prior critiques, but also wish to highlight the fact that they typically focus on problems with the treatment of the binary categories women and man, and in this way may unwittingly contribute to the maintenance and reification of the gender binary. We aim to bolster these critiques with a call to investigate patterns beyond the binary and to critically examine gender itself. To be clear, the gender binary should not be discarded. As long as social actors believe in it and organize their sociolinguistic practices around it, it is a crucial analytical tool. However, it should not be our only tool, nor such a blunt one. It is like an intonation, guys. Boy, you guys, it was not forecast to rain today, but it is coming down. Pouring. Pouring. Pouring down. Why did I grab my phone? I don't remember. Recent years have seen an unprecedented and expanding visibility for trans, non binary, and gender non conforming people in the US. Can you guys hear that? So loud. Yeah, nowhere to go. Numerous factors have contributed to an explosion of discussions of transgender and non-binary people in the public arena, including the presence of well-known trans and non-binary celebrities, laws and movements targeting trans people's bodily autonomy, and news coverage of violence against trans feminine individuals and trans people of color. These discussions often bring language and linguistic norms to the forefront. Here we define the categories of identification that emerged in our research. Transgender people are those whose gender identities differ from the gender assigned to them at birth. The short form trans has current popularity as a label. This term normally encompasses transgender women and men, as well as non-binary people whose gender identities fall outside of the female-male binary. For the purposes of this article, which compares binary and non-binary identified trans people, we use the term trans specifically in reference to trans women and trans men. Little girl voice is used in as a tool, exactly. We use the term trans specifically in reference to trans women and trans men. With recognition that non-binary individuals may also identify as trans, we use non-binary to refer to people who identify as neither female nor male, as both female and male, as gender fluid, or as otherwise subverting or surpassing the binary. For example, genderqueer. In writing, we use trans plus as an umbrella term to encompass both categories and other gender nonconforming individuals, with recognition that terminology for this population is variable and evolving. Cisgender or cis people are those whose gender's identities align with the gender assigned to them at birth. Most speakers in sociolinguistic scholarship, described as women female or men male, are likely cisgender, but it is important to note, my texts are going off. Claire, Dave wants donuts. Bernadette Peters. Right, exactly. Exactly. Yes, Chica. Yeah. Okay, that's done. But not the why? Did I give a why, Susan? Most speakers in sociolinguistic scholarship described as women, female, or men, male are likely cisgender, but it is important to note that unless they were explicitly asked, it is impossible to know this information. We adopt the labels employed by researchers, which are typically enjoy your donuts. Okay, guys, back to the salt mines. Real name was Melissa Rauch, but Bernadette was her show name. Okay. Oregon Valley Girl, do you remember Bernadette Peters from back in the day? She had a little girl voice. I wondered if that I never watched that 70s show. That's Bernadette Peters. And she uses creaky voice. Not all the time. We're going to get there, Chica. I'm not sure I know either, but we're going to find out. I'm going to finish this paragraph and then we're going to hop to the conclusion and see what they have to say. And then we're going to come back and read the middle. How does that sound, you guys? We'll just skip to the end. Skip to the end. Skip to the end. Husband, Man and wife. Do you have a wing? Man and wife. Say man and wife. Sorry, guys. We adopt the labels employed by researchers, which are typically the unmarked binary terms women and men, and label speakers are cis or trans only when researchers explicitly supply this information. Scholars have mirrored societal trends with a significant increase in publications describing trans and non-binary people's language. However, to date, there are a few variationist studies that incorporate trans speakers in quantitative analysis. Hasenberg constructed a 6-cell stratified sample of 31 speakers with cis straight women and men, queer women and men, and trans women and men, analyzing S-fronting and intensifiers. The findings were varied. Women and trans men both made less use of the intensifiers so and pretty compared to their cis counterparts, while for the S, trans speakers and queer cis men occupied the middle of the straight cis envelope of variation. A similar pattern for S fronting was found in Redding, California, in a corpus that included 15 LGBT identified speakers, including 2 trans women and 2 trans men. Zimmern analyzed a sample of 5 trans men, 5 gay cis men, and 5 straight cis men for S fronting, mean fundamental frequency, and creek. With respect to creek, Zimmern found that the trans and gay cis men used creek at similar rates, which was significantly more than the straight cis men. 42 and 39% respectively for the trans and gay cis men, and 12% for the straight cis men. We contribute to this small but growing body of work moving beyond the binary in a quantitative analysis of creek, a phonation type with a complex yet salient connection to gender. Okay, so that was the literature review. Let's skip to the end. Skip to the end. Are you guys getting my movie references yet? It is a beautiful view, Oregon Valley girl. Skip to the end. Overall, we find that gender does not predict creek in our gender diverse sample. All of our speakers produce extremely high rates of creek. The sample mean of 29% is higher than any reported in the related literature for English. While our sample of younger speakers is not directly comparable to other samples, it is worth noting that PDESVA, I do not think so, Big Chief. Although they just kind of, they're talking about trans versus cis gay or gay cis, but there is no, I don't believe there is any differentiation in the gay cis population. I don't think. All of our speakers produce extremely high rates of creek. The sample mean of 29% is higher than any reported in the related literature for English. While our sample of younger speakers is not directly comparable to other samples, it is worth noting that PDESVA, with an overall rate of 19% creaky syllables, found no age effect in his stratified sample, and USA's sample finding rates of 12.5% for women and 5.6% for men was also restricted to young speakers. These studies are slightly older, making it likely that Creek is continuing to increase in young speakers of English, a finding confirmed in Eckert and Podesva 2021. Importantly, all our speakers are quite Creaky regardless of gender. This is a really recent paper that you guys, this is last year. Hello, Lori. The interaction of gender with style offers tentative support for the perspective that Creek indexes cis femininity in some cases. If we interpret the more dramatic change from interview to read speech, in most of the speaker groups assigned female at birth who are not women as evidence of these speakers' modes of disalignment with cis femininity. Let me read that again. That's kind of what I think they're trying to say, Chica. The interaction of gender with style offers tentative support for the perspective that Creek indexes cis femininity in some cases. If we interpret the more dramatic change from interview to read speech, in most of the speaker groups assigned female at birth who are not women, as evidence of these speakers' modes of disalignment with cis femininity. Importantly, the patterns were present only when are comparing across styles, not in the group's overall rates for Creek. In this way, our results do not align with the binary takeaway from the prior literature that women are creakier than men. That being said, it is important to note that had we sampled just the cis women and cis men here, we would find a significant difference between these two groups. It is only, skip to the end, Chica. It is only when expanding the sample for gender that this pattern falls away. This is a crucial contribution of our analysis. The significant patterns change when we sample the full range for our social variable. By analogy, we might imagine if the standard practice was to sample only upper and lower class speakers, find a difference, and then conclude we had presented an accurate picture of the socioeconomic differentiation. Let me read that again. By analogy, we might imagine if the standard practice was to sample only upper and lower class speakers, find a difference, and then conclude we had presented an accurate picture of the socioeconomic differentiation. For gender, by focusing on the two largest, most dominant groups, we may identify extremes, but fail to document the fine-grained patterns of variation present in society, patterns that have been critical to the advancement of sociolinguistic theory. We argue that the use of similarly diverse samples could have enormous import for variationist sociolinguistics, both in revisiting classic findings for gender differentiation and for new research. At the same time, we recognize a few realities. First, the gender binary is well established in the literature, and comparability across studies is important to the field. Some have even argued that understanding language and gender is not the point of including binary gender as a factor in variationist analysis. Instead, the gross categorization allows us to replicate and test for general principles of sociolinguistic stratification and language change. We do not reject this practice wholesale, but we believe responsible analysis of aggregate patterns requires more rigorous methods for collecting gender-related information, attention to the ethics of gender representation, and the exercise of caution and a critical mindset when interpreting these patterns. Another reality is that community sampling can present challenges to building more diverse samples. While Eckert suggests it may not yet be possible to move beyond the binary with large-scale sampling. Okay, Lori. Another reality is community sampling can present challenges to building more diverse samples. While Eckert suggests it may not yet be possible to move beyond the binary with large-scale sampling, we believe that in many situations it is, and increasingly so. We also recognize that variationists will continue to build samples for a range of purposes, and that binning will remain an important part of this process. We are not suggesting that all variationists should attend to gender at the expense of other research questions. Rather, we offer recommendations that may allow scholars to easily incorporate more gender diversity into their best practices. With respect to self-report, it was easy to add a few more questions to our demographic survey. Hold on a second, guys. We encourage the use of open-ended identification before the introduction of forced choice categories, even if post hoc coding makes analysis of this information cumbersome. This allows speakers to use whatever labels matter to them before being asked to bin themselves. Then we recommend disentangling gender assigned at birth from current gender identity with two separate questions. It may still be the case that a sample only has a robust sample for cis men and cis women, but the presence of openly trans plus speakers will likely continue to increase in our samples, making it possible to, for instance, compare the influence of gender assignment at birth alongside gender identity as potential predictors of variation. Theorization around these questions should be done with great care, however, to avoid the pitfall of naturalizing gender assignment or delegitimizing trans people's identities. Though we explored one way of operationalizing gender here, using multiple variables in discrete bins, there are other promising options for operationalization, including the use of continua. Our results suggest that normativity or typicality with respect to some category may play a central role in variation. Participants could be asked first to self-identify their gender identity and then to place themselves on a continuum with respect to how they identify. I'm back. Is it better now? Can you hear me now? I took my AirPod out, and even though it was set only to my iPad speaker, somehow taking my AirPod out. Thank you, Big Chief. Somehow taking my AirPod out messed with the speaker, so I just went out and came back in. Though we explored one way of operationalizing gender here using multiple variables in discrete bins, there are other promising options for operationalization, including the use of continua. Our results suggest that normativity or typicality with respect to some category may play a central role in variation. Yeah, I don't know what 5 by 5 means. I've heard other people say it. I do not know what it means. Participants could be asked first to self-identify their gender identity and then to place themselves on a continuum with respect to how strongly they identify with the label they provided, or how typical of that type of person they see themselves as being. Just as analysts commonly explore different ways to operationalize macro-demographic categories, like age, which can be modeled as a continuous variable, or binned into meaningful life stages or generations, a continuous measure for gender could be modeled and compared to a binary variable across models, providing insight into explaining and interpreting gender differentiation. Exactly, Sunrise Dawn. Exactly. I know what it means, but I don't know why it means that. Lori, that's so sweet. I love it when Big Chief is here. Finally, we encourage other additions which we were not able to explore sufficiently in our own study, including sexuality, sexual orientation, presentation, and expression, as well as the ways. There's your stuff right there. Presentation and expression, Big Chief. It means good signal strength. But why? Why does it mean good signal strength? 5 bars? Finally, we encourage other additions which we were not able to explore sufficiently in our own study, including sexuality, sexual orientation, presentation, and expression, as well as the ways these factors intersect with other social factors. I think that's what you were asking about, Big Chief. At the very least, intersectionality can be better explored through the standardization of modeling interactions in regression analyses. As a final note, we encourage cisgender researchers to seek out trans collaborators, which often means working with students for in-group expertise and ethical guidance. Our hope is to highlight the role sociolinguistic research has played in assuming and perpetuating the view that the gendered world is binary. In continuing to reinforce these ideologies, we do a disservice to the sociolinguistic world we purport to describe. Gender diverse samples will push researchers to formulate specific hypotheses regarding how and why gender is relevant for explaining the distribution of linguistic features and to have better tools for interpretation. In addition, that interpretation can incorporate current theories and understandings of gender in contemporary society. We hope to have demonstrated that gender diversity can be incorporated into existing quantitative sociolinguistic methods, making it possible to move past a reflexive reproduction of the binaristic model used in the earliest days of sociolinguistic research. Almost through the end. We also demonstrated that a quantitative analysis of a gender-diverse sample produced different results than expected, with implications for the literature's perspective on Creek and gender. By including trans plus speakers who identify both in and outside the binary, we find that gender on its own does not predict variation for Creek. The significant interaction of gender and style points our lens to speaker practice. Differential patterns for style shifting, coupled with a closer look at how two highly Creeky individuals make use of different effective meanings for Creek, demonstrate how group-level quantitative data and individual qualitative data can work together to inform our sociolinguistic understanding. The sophistication that variationists bring to uniting the social and the linguistic using powerful tools of quantification is tremendous. We can extend this toolkit to social categories like gender with potentially field-altering results. To echo exactly, Chica. Exactly. Hold on, another text message. Declare Dave doesn't know I'm online. I think that's what we're going to talk about in a minute, Oregon Valley girl. To echo Eckert, eventually, if we do our work, Big Chief, well enough, our theories may dispense with some of those categories altogether. Such a shift would not only advance our discipline's theoretical capabilities directly, but also transform it into a field that engages and empowers trans students, scholars, and communities. Okay. Now that we've skipped to the end, let's go back to the middle. Now we're going to talk about Creek and gender in English. Alexa, stop. Alexa, shut up. Sorry if I set off your Amazon bots, you guys. I've been known to do that by telling her to shut up. My apologies. Creek was first described as a sociolinguistic variable in English in the UK, predominating in the speech of men, a finding that has been replicated in more recent work on adolescence in Scotland and Outer London. Because Creek prototypically co-occurs with low frequency, these findings were interpreted through a biological lens, since men use lower pitch than women in the aggregate. Thus, the earliest indexical connection between Creek and gender leaked it to men. The early 2010s saw renewed interest in Creek in English, and many studies reported an intriguing flip. Instead of men, women led the use of Creek, at least in the US. This scholarship mirrored the rise in salience of Creek's use by young women in the popular media. These sources likely worked together to forge a powerful indexical relationship between Creek and gender, such that it has emerged as a signature gender variable. I know you like it. However, it is a testament to the power of the gender binary that Creek is viewed this way, as the literature documents considerable intergender variation along other social axes, including socioeconomic stratification, regional differentiation, and race ethnicity. Though the dominant ideology links Creek to white female speakers, this is not fully supported by the literature. Some studies confirm this finding. Zake and Torgerson report that in inner London, Anglo women use the most Creek. However, Podesva found no significant difference between black and white women in DC. In New England English, Zake reports that Maori speakers were Creekier than Pekee European descended speakers on the whole. And in the U.S., Creek is widespread in Chicanic communities. Chicanx communities, it says. Similarly, findings for age contradict the dominant perspective that younger speakers utilize the most Creek. Some studies document the presence of Creek in young people, but with no comparator group to confirm age differentiation or change in apparent time, though Eckert and Podesva identify an apparent time increase led by young people. In contrast, both Stuart Smith and Podesva analyze an age-stratified sample, finding no age effect. In Zake, age predicts Creek in the opposite direction. Older speakers are Creekier, except for Maori men, who show change in apparent time towards increased creakiness. In all, the perspective from the literature is that binary gender is only one axis of differentiation for Creek in English. Further, many studies contradict the widespread ideology that Creek predominates in the speech of young white women. Despite this, the association between Creek and women has emerged as a strong and salient indexical link and is continually reinforced by attention from the popular media. Some have interpreted the flip from male to female-led usage as indicating that young women are adopting a masculine resource to their benefit. Yet the notion that Creek indexes masculinity, even when used by women, is further complicated by the link identified by Podesva and Zimin between Creek and gay or gay-sounding men. If Creek indexes femininity in contemporary American ideology, its use by non-heterosexual men fits the pattern where the use of features associated with women are available to index gay male identity. Alternatively, we could think of Creek as flexible in its gendered indexicalities, perhaps in part because of the different ways it can impact speakers' FO range. I'm not sure what an FO range is. Podesva describes Creek as functioning in combination with falsetto to create a highly expansive pitch range for one gay male speaker. But this is only one possibility. Trans speakers who are motivated to make auditory adjustments to their voices, for instance, may find Creek is useful for accessing a lower range. In addition, the laryngeal changes that result from taking testosterone, as some trans speakers do, may specifically impact the production of Creek. Susan! Zenu Marlene! Everyone! Zenu Marlene. In fact, Wolf Machine, I would love your comments on this paper if you're at all interested. I'm not understanding it much yet. Is it raining at your neck of the woods? It is pouring here. And then it gets sunny, and then it pours. Pours. Yep, just poured. Now it's sunny. In all, the perspective from the literature is that binary gender is only one axis of differentiation for Creek in English. Further, many studies contradict the widespread ideology that Creek predominates in the speech of young white women. Despite this, the association between Creek and women has emerged as a strong and salient indexical link and is continually reinforced by attention from the popular media. Some have interpreted the flip from male to female. Oops, we read all that. That'll do. Exactly, Oregon Valley Girl. We align with the argument made in both Eckert and Podesva and Mendoza-Denton that Creek should be decoupled from any inherently gendered social meaning. Further, we support Mendoza-Denton's critique of the soundbite for this paper. I wish there was. You guys remember when you were in school and you had Cliff's Notes? I'm almost positive that the teachers assign papers so that there's no Cliff's Notes. We align with the argument that Creek should be decoupled from any inherently gendered social meaning. Big Chief, I dropped a link earlier in the chat. I wonder if it's still there. I dropped a link earlier in the chat to, let me find it here, guys. Hold. It's called Vocal Fry. You want to do, but I'll give you a link for an example. That talks about creaky voice or vocal fry. You might have heard about vocal fry. Creek should be decoupled from any inherently gendered social meaning. Further, we support Mendoza-Denton's critique of the pervasive sociobiological theorizing that has contributed to the continued attempts to link Creek to gender. In sum, despite the focus on Creek and gender, as well as a powerful ideological link to femininity, there is a lack of consensus as to which gendered groups use Creek, as well as what social actors may be accomplishing with this resource. Okay, now we're going to go into methods, guys. So they're going to talk to us about what they did and how they did it, and then we'll get results and discussion. The data for the current study are drawn from a larger corpus of recordings made in 2014 in Portland, Oregon. Each 1 hour recording consisted of 5 production modules: a casual interview, a word list, the rainbow passage, That is a specific passage of words. Damn it. Let me pin that. That voice. Now you know what I'm talking about, huh? You can read reviews left by previous. Sorry, that's not what I wanted to do, guys. Orion. Damn it. Hold on a second, you guys. Orion, kennel up. Kennel up. Orion, now. Kennel up. Come on. They're not making really a hypothesis. They're making a recommendation that people give up using gender for creaky voice. Let me see again, Wolf Machine. I'll come back to methods in a moment. The abstract says, Wolf Machine, this paper promotes a sophisticated treatment of gender in variationism through a large-scale quantitative analysis of creak or vocal fry, a non-modal voice quality stereotypically associated with women in U.S. English. An analysis of our gender-diverse corpus, including cisgender, transgender, and non-binary individuals, finds that gender does not predict variation. All gender groups produce high rates of creak. However, gender does interact with style. All speakers use more creak in interview speech compared with read speech, but some groups style shift more than others, suggesting that gender remains a relevant factor in capturing how creak is deployed as a resource in social practice. We use this analysis to advocate for a move beyond the gender binary in quantitative descriptions of sociolinguistic variables and call for the greater inclusion of trans individuals in sociolinguistics. We are good, Sunrise Dawn. Thank you. I thought that was very appropriate, Big Chief. I thought it was excellent, actually. Okay, so a rainbow passage, a dialogue between characters with stereotype persona, and a closing interview with explicit discussions of gender and language. Wolf, did that answer your question a little bit? Speakers also participated in a perception task involving attitudinal judgments. Finally, we collected demographic information, including for gender. The bulk of this gender-diverse corpus is freely accessible to researchers with permission. Our analysis here looks only at the casual interview and the rainbow passage reading, both examples of connected speech but differing in style. Most variationist studies make use of two bins for gender: female women, male men, assigned either by researcher designation or self-report. Consequently, for many studies that report patterns of gender differentiation, we have no idea whether the speakers in these bins are cis or trans, or even identify with their assigned category. Whether because of methodology or inattention, many researchers still designate these categorizations without consulting participants. This practice perpetuates the gender binary through the assumption of two categories, as well as the assumption that these categories are externally obvious to the researcher via semiotic clues from presentation assessments of the body or name. You've got 8 brothers and sisters, Big Chief. Your mother is a saint. With respect to self-report, many researchers collect macro-demographic information, including gender, often through a survey at the start or end of data collection. Likely, most of these surveys have a single question for gender without inquiring whether respondents were assigned to that category at birth or whether they are typical members of that category in one or more ways. Some surveys provide a third forced choice option, often other, or allow participants to write in a label. In a community sample, participants who explicitly self-identify outside the binary are often excluded due to low numbers, precluding quantitative analysis, or because gender nonconformity is not a focus in the study, such that the researcher moves forward with uncomplicated binary speakers for quantitative analysis. Wow, Big Chief. Well, when you got that many, a few more is just not that big a deal. The very practice of binning is certainly not ideal for capturing the complexity of any aspect of social identification. Your mother-in-law is also a saint, Chica. Wow. The very practice of binning is certainly not ideal for capturing the complexity of any aspect of social identification, but it remains a core tool for modeling variation that can be refined to better reflect contemporary understanding of social categorization. When speakers embody the expected alignment of the binary gender they are assigned at birth, socialized into as children, and identify with at the time of data collection, these relevant factors are easily collapsed and may appear to be unnecessary complications. It is when we begin to include voices that diverge from this alignment that we see the importance of teasing apart the factors that may contribute to gender differentiation in language use. The following section outlines how we aimed to do this through our binning strategy. Parent was a bit dictatory, but learning how to get around that was good lessons. Good, Oregon Valley girl, I'm glad. Sunrise Dawn, we will miss you. See you later, dear. Voca fry has increased over the last 10 years. Definitely a learned behavior. You don't see it a lot among queers. You blame reality television. There you go. Well, let's see what they say about their speakers. From a larger corpus, we analyze 43 individuals who are diverse with respect to gender. Our original demographic form provided a free response text box asking, "What is your gender identity?" We gathered further information for participants as this topic arose naturally during the interview. After the initial phase of data collection, we contacted participants with an optional follow-up questionnaire with forced choice questions about exposure to testosterone and gender assigned at birth, both of which have been shown to exert an influence over the voice. Our sample for analysis consists of those participants who provided this follow-up information. Our survey also asked for sexual orientation, but due to some empty cells, we exclude this as a factor in the current analysis. We controlled for age by sampling young speakers aged 18 to 35. We also hoped to explore variation for race, ethnicity, and class, but were less successful in sampling along these axes. I think I'm getting better at the out loud reading. What do you guys think? The majority of our speakers are white and middle class, which is a significant and unfortunate limitation. Most speakers were living in the Portland metro area at the time of recording, but came from across the U.S. Portland. This is a joint study by USC Santa Barbara and Reed College. Table 1 presents the operationalized bins for gender assignment at birth. 2 levels: AFAB, AMAB, current gender identity. 3 levels: woman, man, non-binary. Okay, wait a second. Table 1 presents the operational bins for gender assignment at birth. 2 levels for gender assignment at birth: assigned female at birth, AFAB, or assigned male at birth, AMAB. Current gender identity: 3 levels: woman, man, non-binary, and exposure to testosterone: 2 levels: yes or no, resulting in a sample with 9 cells. 2 cells are not well populated. Of our trans men, only 2 indicated that they had not taken testosterone. The rest had. In addition, there were no women who reported taking testosterone. This is possible, but not common. As such, we have 8 gender bins. Yeah, they probably addressed that, Jika. You recruited. Reed has an excellent campus, and we were just over there. I was just over there Friday to go to the rhododendron garden. Okay, so can you guys see that? There's 9 boxes, but only 8 are full. Yeah, it is an excellent point, Chica. Okay, so that's the table we're talking about. Note that in our assigned male at birth role, we do not differentiate for testosterone, as adult speakers in this category will likely have undergone a puberty in which testosterone enlarges the larynx, lowering mean frequency. However, not asking our AMAB speakers about their testosterone exposure was an office oversight, as some speakers could have reported relevant experience with hormone blockers or other medications. Additionally, we neglected to ask participants about diagnoses that might have an impact on their hormones, such as polycystic ovarian syndrome. While testosterone has a clear impact on frequency, feminizing hormones like estrogen are not thought to produce significant change in the larynx. To reiterate, the bulk of what has been reported for voice quality and gender is based on individuals presumed to occupy only 2 of the cells in Table 1. Cis women, AFAB, identify as women not taking testosterone, and cis men, AMAB, identify as men likely exposed to testosterone since puberty. These 2 cells provide data comparable to prior literature on binary gender differentiation for Creek. The 3 cells with trans individuals and the 3 cells with non-binary individuals, however, are important additions to the literature, not just for Creek, but for developing models of inclusion for those understudied and marginalized trans populations in quantitative analysis. Okay, this is coding and analysis. We're going to skip all of that because it's a whole lot of blah. I get it, Big Chief. It's okay. You don't need to be PC of here. I mean, PC is good or all, but I get what you're saying. Don't worry about it. Due to space constraints, we do not discuss here the findings for prosodic factors, except to note they align with the prior literature. Creek is significantly more likely in syllables that are unaccented. Onset lists, IP initiality, IP final. The best full fit model is presented in the appendix. The main effect of gender is shown in Table 2 and demonstrates that gender is not a significant predictor of variation for Creek. So this says I haven't read it yet, you guys. I'm just showing it to you. This says of immediate note is that all groups have a high percent Creek with an overall average of 29%. However, given the prevalence of findings for binary gender differentiation in the prior literature on Creek, the lack of a significant main effect for gender is quite notable. This was the case regardless of whether we operationalize gender as 2 variables with the potential interactions or as a single 8-level variable as shown here. They use methods. Let me back up to methods. Chica. Each sound file was transcribed orthographically and fed through the forced alignment and vowel extraction programs suite, producing a text grid using an intonational transcription system to mark perceived prominence and IP boundary tone types. They identified it that way. Want to remove what, Oregon Valley girl? What did I do? Oh, you mean Wolf Machine's comment, or which do you mean, Oregon Valley girl? Does that? No. Well, that's because I skipped it. I skipped the methods. the e-meter could just, right. Okay, let me find where I am here. 22, 23, 24. Okay, Wolf Machine, good. Okay. Nah. Okay, so we were at table 2. Of immediate note is that all groups have a high percent creek with an overall average of 29%. However, given the prevalence of findings for binary gender differentiation in the prior literature on creek, the lack of a significant main effect for gender is quite notable. This was the case of whether we operationalized gender with 2 variables with potential interactions, for example, assigned gender at birth over current gender identity, or as a single 8-level variable as shown here. Though gender does not predict creek on its own, there is a main effect of style which interacts with gender shown in table 3. Okay, here's table 3, you guys. And I think the camera's dirty. I'll clean it in a minute. In fact, I'm sure the camera's dirty. Let me clean it. There we go. Now you can see that better. So that's table 3. There is a main effect on style such that speakers use significantly more creek in the interview than in the reading passage. In addition, there is a significant interaction of style and gender. While all groups use more creek in interview speech and less in reading passage, the relative degree of difference between styles varies across groups. These patterns are visualized in figure 2, with the reference level for gender non-binary AFAB speakers and testosterone presented on the far left. Figure 2. Well, that is tiny. Okay, can you guys see that teeny tiny? There it is. These patterns are visualized in figure 2 with the reference level for gender non-binary AFAB speakers on testosterone presented on the far left. One helpful comparison that highlights the interaction between the 2 non-binary AFAB speaker groups, those on testosterone far left and those not on testosterone fourth from the left. Non-binary AFAB speakers not on testosterone show a significantly smaller style shift by comparison. Other groups that also show a significantly smaller style shift include cis men, cis women, trans women, and non-binary assigned male at birth speakers. 2 groups, trans men on testosterone and trans men not on testosterone, demonstrate a style shift that is not significantly different from non-binary AFAB speakers on testosterone. Jen, wow. Okay, despite the prevalent link between creaky voice and gender in the scholarship and public sphere, gender is not a significant predictor of creak in our data. There is, however, a significant interaction of gender and style. Overall, speakers use more creak in interview speech than in the reading passage, and there are individual differences in the degree of shift based on gender. non-binary AFAB individuals on testosterone and trans men, regardless of hormonal status, patterns similarly across styles, more greatly differentiating interview speech from the reading passage. Notably, these speakers are all AFAB but do not identify as women. In addition, 2 of these groups are composed of individuals who have elected hormone therapy to masculinize their bodies, the only 2 in our sample. Taken together, these results could suggest that individuals in these groups may be disinclined to use features linked ideologically with femininity when asked to perform a reading task. Despite overall rates of creak, trans men not on testosterone are the creakiest in interview speech at 39, while trans men on testosterone are the least creaky at 24. One possible interpretation is that these speakers' investment in moving away from normative femininity is evident in their style shift patterns. In contrast to the above groups, non-binary AFAB individuals not in testosterone, trans women, non-binary AMAB individuals, cis women, and cis men all demonstrate a significantly less substantial change in creak use when moving from interview speech to the reading passage. Given the range of assigned genders at birth, current gender identities, and exposure to testosterone during puberty, we hesitate to offer an interpretation that unites these groups in somehow attending less to creak in a more formal style. Using our speculative interpretation above for 3 groups who may be invested in a greater reduction in creak use in more formal styles, it may be simply that all the other groups adopt a traditional style shift pattern that some individuals in speaker groups can amplify. In addition, Figure 2 offers an initial window into the range of variation within groups, with a number of outliers suggesting the importance of looking within groups to the individual speakers who occupy them. Despite some potential interpretations for the gendered style shifting patterns, the speculation inherent in assigning motivations to bins of gendered speakers is a critique we take seriously as discussed above. The group level variation highlighted in Figure 2 is strengthened when we turn to an examination of how individuals are arranged for overall use of creak, illustrated in Figure 3. Figure 3 underscores the lack of main effect of gender on creak in the data. Speakers from all groups are represented across the continuum, confirming within group heterogeneity and bolstering our argument that the quantitative scholars can and should supplement statistical findings with insight from analysis of individuals within these groups. We elect here to focus on the creakiest speakers to demonstrate this approach. Figure 3 confirms that the highest rate of creak overall in the sample was produced by cis women, in line with prior research linking creak with cis femininity. The 10 creakiest speakers, however, are a diverse group including cis women, a trans woman, a trans man on testosterone, non-binary AFAB individuals, non-binary AMAB individuals, and a cis man. Figure 4 zooms in on the 5 creakiest speakers with means grouped by style. We see both confirmation of the group level style analysis. The non-binary AFAB individual on testosterone shows a more substantial style shift in the expected direction than others like trans women Cleo, as well as disalignment in an individual practice. Both cis women Jackie and the non-binary AFAB individual show a higher mean in read speech. We move now to a presentation of how the two Creekiest speakers adopt discursive practices related to affect in interview speech that enhance our understanding of Creek's socio-indexical profile. How are we coming, y'all? So these are the 5 Creekiest users by style. And it's time for Xenu Marlene, y'all. We are coming up on 2 hours. I have you guys are getting a special treat. It's a preview. Do you know what this is? Scotch has made an appearance. Y'all, Scotch has made an appearance. I told y'all he would sooner or later. Come on. This is a secret preview of Come on. Come on. There he is. There's our big boy. There's our big boy. Yeah. Hi. You're giving everybody a preview. You're supposed to be the celebration prize. You're supposed to be the celebration prize. Everybody can see your beautiful mane. Look at you. Yeah. I told everybody eventually you'd make an entrance. But now you're spoiling the surprise. Did you mean to do that? Did you mean to spoil the surprise? Huh? Hi there, buddy. Are you missing Daddy? My husband is away at a camping trip this weekend. And so Scotch has been personless for 2 days, which is usually why he comes to find me. He does. He needs lovin's. He does need lovin'. Come here. Are you getting situated? Are you getting situated? He is beautiful, Susan. Check a thing. Okay. Come here. Nope. He's done. There's the back of his head, y'all. There's the back of his head. Let's see if we can get him to turn around. Twitching that ear. Can you see him twitching that ear because I'm pestering him? Come on. Turn around. Come on. Soda. Or Scotch. Orion, hush. He is a big-ass cat, Big Chief. He sure is a big-ass cat. Yeah, bobcat size indeed. Indeed. He is big boy. He is a big boy. He's got a lot of hair. He is smaller than Soda. He's just got a lot of hair. Okay, individual discursive practice, guys. This is going to get interesting. And we are almost done. Shall we say a first Minnesota goodbye? Jen, wow, you know, the first Minnesota goodbye always makes more people show up. It is funny. Individual discursive practice. We begin with Cleo, a 27-year-old white and Hispanic, queer, lesbian, trans woman from the West Coast. She shows the traditional pattern for style shift in figure 4, decreasing her rate of creak in the reading passage, but in interview speech, she is the creakiest speaker in our sample, 68%. In a discursive analysis of Cleo's practices in interview speech, we identified within style patterns that aligned with shifts in affect. Specifically, strong negative experiences and emotions were often accompanied by creak. Cleo spent a significant period of time in the interview describing negative experiences from her child that led her mother to pull her out of elementary school and begin homeschooling at an early age. Those negative experiences, which are dense with creak, excerpt 1, contrast with Cleo's description of her experiences at college a few minutes later, excerpt 2, which were much more positive. In all examples, creaky speech is bolded. Okay, so this is a transcript excerpt, and I will try and do my best at creaky voice. Excerpt 1. Cleo in elementary school. Reasons for pulling me out of school were just an incompatibility between my learning styles and the teaching styles that are available within the strict curriculum, standardized curriculum. And I don't know, I had a lot of anxiety and stuff as a kid too. So it just made sense to pull me out of that situation. Excerpt 2, Cleo in college. It took a year or two, but then, yeah, I really liked having different courses in different disciplines. That it's just like, go sit down and think about this for a couple of hours, and then take a break, and then go think about this for a couple of hours. Go think about this for a couple of hours and take a break. So the bold is where she's creaky. At least 8, Jen. That would be lovely. I have less than 250 hours. Just a little more than 200. So I'm expecting 2 weeks until I am monetized. Oh, although Cleo is always quite creaky, the higher frequency of creak in excerpt 1 is typical of many examples where negative experiences seem to trigger long stretches of particularly creaky speech. This practice also occurred among several other speakers in the sample. Another related affective stance that patterns with creak is disengagement. Jackie, a 20-year-old queer cis woman from Southern California who is the creakiest speaker in the sample overall, exemplifies this patterning. As she recited her family history and early life, she used Creek extensively, often for several IPs at a time. In excerpt 3, she is coming to the end of such a stretch that included describing her high school activities, lines 1 through 10. Jackie then dramatically reduced her Creek as she switched to a topic she is passionate about, lines 12 through 20, art, which she sometimes regrets not pursuing professionally. Only minimal Creek occurs as she expresses her excitement about these subjects, primarily restricted to its most prototypical position, that is, at large prosodic boundaries. This analysis may also be useful in understanding why Jackie uses even more Creek in read speech, which we can speculate she feels fairly dispassionate about. Jen Wow doesn't Creek? No. Okay, Jackie. And I helped build the steel structure underneath. Rose Parade floats every weekend. I did a lot of volunteering at the hospital. I did that every week in high school. Took art classes. I'm interested in sculpture. So I learned how to weld. Then I was into metal casting and ceramics, and I was really into mobiles for a while. I am still trying to figure out this creaky voice. I don't hear it. The role of affect may be important specifically because of its indexical link to gender. Affect itself is gendered, and the ways in which individuals delve into different types of affect-laden topics could be one way Creek accumulates gendered meaning. As a cis woman, Jackie's use of Creek when less engaged could support the notion that cis women have stabilized with high rates of Creek that they do not need to attend to. At the same time, she does make use of Creek in social practice, departing from a baseline high rate as she expresses greater engagement. Cleo's analysis moves us beyond the group level conclusions, as the use of Creek to index negative affect is found across gendered groups and serves as a reminder that this linguistic resource, like others, will operate on the ground to index highly local and personal stances which may or may not come to be associated with gender or other larger social constructs. Unless you guys want me to read the conclusion again, or you guys don't want me to read the coding and analysis. So that is my paper. I think that what they're saying is we are being lazy by just suggesting that Creek is a feminine feature and that it may indeed be a feature that is used across all genders to denote certain things. I don't know. That's what I get out of it. What about the rest of you? Jen, I thought of you today. We were on Brain Fog's stream and ran over to room raid another stream. And by the time I got there, the streamer had ended. It was very sad. It was a failed room raid. Xena Marlene, everyone. That's what you think, Susan? I think that's what I got out of that paper. Chica, Wolf, Big Chief. You don't what because? I don't understand, Jen. So, Jen Wow doesn't have a creaky voice? Good. Oh, you don't what, Big Chief? Got it. Don't what because I read Bug Chief because. Yep. It's rainy and cool. My old everything hurts. I'm sorry, Lori. The logic seems forced to you, Chica. How so? I think what they're trying to say is by dividing it just into binaries, we're missing the reasons why. We're just saying women use this, and we're not looking at the different ways that it might be used. And what it means. And I haven't read enough about this. I'm going to need, after we finish, I'm going to need to watch some videos about what folks think about creaky voice. Or what's it called? Vocal fry. Vocal fry. I think vocal fry is that vocal fry. That's vocal fry. Yep, I'm doing it. Vocal fry. Vocal fry. I don't think I do that very often. Do you guys hear me do that very often? It definitely seems like it's a thing for younger folks. It's definitely age related. So this week, guys, I've got to start on my paper. There's creek found in two diverse ways. Yes, I think so. But I think that's sort of what they're saying. You see it in clusters among certain populations. I think it's very fairly simplified. I mean, to be fair, the sample they're using is drawn Cabazon Beverly Hills accent. The data for the current study are drawn from a corpus of recordings. "43 individuals." The grown talk like the Kardashians. Yeah, but why do they use it? Yeah, I hear Paris Hilton too. But what is the point? I mean, there's a reason they're using it, and we're trying to get to the reason. And if we just keep saying, exactamente to which, Big Chief? I talk too fast. I am not good at this comment thing. If I say which, Jen. Exactamente, Paris Hilton. Okay. Yeah, Paris Hilton, exactly. So here I think is the most key paragraph. My child is texting me. Teenager is telling me they're going to be home. They're maybe going to be home late. I'm like, sir, you may be going to be home or you may be going to be late. Maybe going to be home. Now they're wanting to be home late, which is fine. Benetton perfume? Excuse me. I don't remember Benetton perfume. Is that new? So here's the paragraph I think is most important. Most variationist studies make use of two bins for gender, assigned either by the researcher designation or self-report. Consequently, for many studies that report patterns of gender differentiation, we have no idea whether the speakers in these bins are cis or trans or even identify with their assigned category. Whether because of methodology or inattention, many researchers still designate these categorizations without consulting participants. This practice perpetuates the gender binary through the assumption of two categories, as well as the assumption that the categories are externally obvious to the researcher via semiotic clues from presentation, assessments of the body, or name. It was 90s with the happy craze of perfume. You thought you were preppy, but sadly not. I remember Benetton. I loved Benetton stuff. But we never had enough money to buy fancy clothes like that. Or at least I never felt like I had enough money to buy fancy clothes like that. We probably did. We probably did. So, you guys want to talk perfumes? My favorite right now is Burning Cherry by Kayali. And I bought it for myself for a gift for myself for getting an A last quarter. But unfortunately, it does not last very long at all. Evening in Paris. Nice, Chica. I didn't realize you were that much older than me, Chica. I thought we were closer to the same age, although the older you get, the closer you seem, even when you're 10 years apart. Eternally 29. It was a lovely gift for myself. I got myself that and a new blush from, oh, who did the new blush that I like? Real Beauty. Um, Real Beauty. Who is that? Is that Real Beauty? No. What is that I got? Eternally 29. Eternally, the 30th anniversary of your 29th birthday. That's what it is, Chica. It's the 30th anniversary of your 29th birthday. What perfumes do you guys like? It's hard these days to find a perfume that lasts. You wear some men's unisex colognes and they last longer. Interesting, Wolf. Rare Beauty by Selena Gomez. I bought this amazing. I bought that blush. Look at that color. Such a pretty color. So I bought that blush and I bought some eyeshadow and I bought the Kayali. But it is really disappointing. When I wear Coco, it lasts. I can smell it the day after and the day after that when I wear Coco. When I wear my Bond New York China Girl, I can smell it several days. You recently bought someone a Chanel. It's pink and smells amazing. It's pink. There's a pink Chanel. Chance? Did you buy Chance? Did it come in a pink, in a circle bottle? Does it look like that? I haven't smelled that one. I don't know that one. Chance. Yep. Everybody's going to be home late. We've got all the time. It's knee weakening. You like it, huh, Big Chief? Nice. Nice. I like what else do I like? Eccentric Molecules Angel Dior Homme is amazing. I love Dior Dune. I really love Dior Dune. I'm trying to think what else I have. I have Giorgio Red. That's pretty old. You wear a lot of oil? I don't wear much oil. I tend to wear cologne. You want to get something that oil from Archibald Sisters. Interesting. I haven't seen the Archibald Sisters. Want to get something that doesn't make you sneeze. Flowers and candy. Oregon Valley Girl, it's fun to go to the Sephora and just try the scents. Or Portland has, it's in Olympia. Interesting. Portland has, last I checked, 2 incredible perfume stores that have excellent options for a huge variety of smaller perfumeries. Perfumery? Something like that. I'll have to check out Archibald Sisters in Olympia Wolf Machine. Dolce Gabbana a long time ago that was unreal. Now it's on TV to smell like a rich hotel. Funny. There are few scents you can tolerate. You always smell the alcohol. Interesting. Interesting, Chica. I know some people are really sensitive. I like Dior Poison and Hypnotic Poison, and I like a lot of things. I like a lot of things. You get comments on how nice it smells? That's great, Susan. I love it when I'm wearing a scent and people give me compliments. It's such a nice feeling. You find one you like, it gets discontinued. Lori, I'm so sorry. That's why I have a huge assortment. They have a wall of oils that you can use directly on skin or have them mixed into different moisturizers. Nice, Wolf. Next time I am headed north, I will stop in Olympia. I've never spent much time in Olympia. It might be fun to spend a weekend there. Ralph Lauren made tuxedo in the 80s. You still miss it? Big Chief, I am sure you always smell good. Lauren is really nice, Susan. I like it a lot. You grew up in Olympia. Is it worth going to spend a weekend? I've never spent any time in Olympia beyond going to the state capitol a few times. I liked Karl Lagerfeld made a fragrance in the 80s called KL. I loved it. I loved it. It was a spicy carnation, amazing, amazing fragrance. And I just really, really, really miss it. Really miss it a lot. Don't make it anymore. It's the worst. Je Reviens. My mom wore Je Reviens. Illumined is Mary Kay's fragrance, Oregon Valley girl. Illuminea. Illuminea is Mary Kay's fragrance. Your sister sells Mary Kay. She's in a cult, Susan. You know that. Spending the night but hanging out for a few hours, so doing it on a Saturday afternoon. Or maybe spending the weekend and we could go see Dusty. Dusty Soda Fountain's father helped rebuild an old mill that is out Ralph Lauren. Yes, Ralph Lauren. I like Lily of the Valley elect too, Lori. I was thinking we've got this huge shaded area in our yard, and I was thinking we could put Lily of the Valley in there. But Lily of the Valley is toxic to dogs, so I'll have to figure out places in the front yard to put Lily of the Valley. It's similar to when they discontinue the China pattern and you can't replace the broken plate. Yeah, Chica. At least though there's places you can go. There's discontinued China pattern places you can go and maybe get some. Jessica McClintock made a nice one. Can tell I'm an 80s girl. One of my first fragrances was Jean Naté. And I've always liked Shalimar. She only sells to me and we get it half off. Okay, Susan. I'll give it a pass. Babe, huh? So this week, I need to start working on my paper. Definitely. I'll have a few readings. Charlie. Stetson Girl. Was it Stetson Girl or Stetson Woman? Anjali. How about that? I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man. Anjali. Yeah, I remember, babe. but it wasn't the Jessica McClintock one. Those didn't seem to go together, the Jessica McClintock. Did you see Jessica McClintock dresses? Gunny sack style dresses are back in stock. Oh, Liz Taylor and all her commercials. Yes, Wolf Machine. Indeed. Indeed. We had whole commercials for perfume. Do they have TV commercials for perfume anymore, y'all? And for drugstore perfume, too. Not for stuff like Je Reviens, but for Angeline. My mom loved opium. She wore opium. Yes, they do. You say indeed now all the time. I do say indeed a lot, don't I? I am sorry. I am sorry you are picking up my little verbalisms. I apologize. Opium was your mom's? Okay. Good, Susan. I'm glad. Yeah, my mom loved opium. But she wore Je Reviens when I was a little girl. Opium didn't come around until the early 80s, if I remember correctly. Was one of the first big designer fragrances that I recall. Could be Wolf. It could be a West Coast thing, right? You can smell that stuff from the next house. From the next house, you could smell that stuff. Wowza. I'd almost like a bottle of it now. I used to have a bottle. Exactly, Lori. Your brother gave it to her every Christmas. That's so sweet, Chica. That's really sweet. The stench of Dracoir Noir. Well, I don't know that it's much worse than the stench nowadays of Axe body spray combined with uh what's that body wash stuff? Old Irish Spring. Irish Spring. Oh, you don't like opium, Lori? Yeah, it's a definite yes or no, Axe. Right, Susan? Lots of spice. It is a lot of spice. Opium sure is. I love it. I love a lot of spice. I've got a lot of highly spiced fragrances. Um, I'll bring out my scent collection once, my perfume collection sometime, and show you guys if you're interested. That might be a fun thing to do. Choke as he walked out the door. Yeah. So Axe over Irish Springs body wash. Those Irish Springs Be a Man body washes are something else. You smelled a lot of Axe. I don't know. You'd think they could get something better. Yeah, Jen, of course. Of course you can. Always. There aren't many of us here, but trust me, if I go on to the third Minnesota Goodbye, which it's more than past date time for, we're at third Minnesota Goodbye. We're half an hour over time. I'm just going to quit saying I try to keep these to 2 hours, y'all, because it takes me a half an hour to really get running. Fresh cotton. I love the smell of fresh cotton, and that's a fragrance that's really, really hard to do. I do love you, Susan. Really, Oregon Valley girl. It's one fuzzy won her prize. What do you mean, Jen? What do you mean? Burning branches? Oh, yeah, we can go raid Bernie. Absolutely. That would be totally fun. Is she doing another thing tonight? Yes, I remember. Nice cotton percale um sheets dried on a line. The smell was amazing. You can't get sheets like that anymore. You just cannot get good. You guys have the same thing? You guys cannot get good cotton sheets anymore. Everything is polyester blend. I love good cotton sheets. They're impossible to find. We will see you when we get there. How long is she going, Jen? I need to know how to trickle out my Minnesota goodbyes. Or maybe we need to do it sooner rather than later. I don't remember quite back that far, Oregon Valley girl, not from a roller. We always had a washer. I don't remember my mom using a roller ever. We always had a washer with spin cycle. But yeah, sheets on a line. Sheets on a line. There it is. There it is, you guys. Thank you for spending my study time with me. I really appreciate it. The sun is coming out again, so maybe I'll go sit outside for a little while. Maybe it's warmed up. And catch you over at Bernie's. I'll race you guys over there. Take it easy. Bye-bye.